And now, the Lowe Post.
Welcome to the Lowe Post podcast live from the MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference, where for, I believe, the third time at this event, I am joined by the general manager of the traveling circus Golden State Warriors, Bob Myers. How you doing?
That wasn't very fair, right? Start off with circus? I'm good. This is a mini tradition.
Yeah,
it's good.
It wasn't as mean as Mike Zarin throwing light years at you
that was
on
rude.
The panel we just
did.
did.
That was completely out of line. Not happy about that.
The first time we did this podcast, recently in the rear view, was the Draymond yelling at Steve Kerr in Oklahoma City incident. And I was fascinated to hear, you were not at that game, and I was fascinated to sort of hear, okay, what happens to your life when that happens? So 3 years later, the event of the season so far in the NBA is Draymond and Kevin Durant on the sidelines, and after the sidelines against the Clippers. Everything bad happens in Los Angeles, by the way. Every bad thing for a team happens in Los Angeles. Were you at that game?
Yeah.
So what is life like for you? When do you realize something is happening, and what happens as it's happening or after the game? What are your memories of that night? What happens in your life?
The memories that I had, I was sitting on the court that game. I didn't actually see that happen, which is, I don't know why I missed that, because usually when you're at a game, that is what I watch. I mean, the difference between going to a game in person and seeing on TV is you see things like that. And I know, actually, had I been watching on TV, it was more showcased. But since I was there, and I was in the opposite baseline on the court from where our bench was, so I actually missed the whole thing. So when I walked back to the locker room, as I was walking back there after we lost, I heard it. I heard rumblings about it from the coaches and some of the other players. And then we walked back in the locker room and heard, it being discussed. And I think, more so now than at any other time, and maybe as we fast forward, the exposure a team faces is maybe at the highest level it's ever been. So did Larry Bird ever get into it with McHale? I bet they did. I bet Magic got into it with Kareem. I don't know. Maybe they weren't in HD cameras, and now you can read lips and everything. So it's a different era of
and also free agency was a much less powerful
it was.
tool for
I mean, exactly. Guys signed long deals. It was a completely different environment and landscape. So the scrutiny is there, right? And you're seeing separate from that situation. So you walk back there and you realize what's different about the NBA and life is that within a family, if you get in an argument with an uncle, a brother, a sister, a wife, usually it's not on camera. Usually there's not, 19,000 people observing. So that's what separates. So how do you deal with that, right? So there's arguments that happen all the time. And I would argue that the better your relationship with someone, the more chance you're going to be truthful with them. And so, a fake relationship, a marriage, a friendship, a teammate, it's hunky-dory. You never get into anything. But that's not real life.
No.
So they had obviously we know what happened. So then it's about, okay, how do you go about repairing it? Because I always look at, when you build a team, build a company, hire anybody, I think the best thing you want to discern is who are they at their worst? You hire a coach. What's Steve Kerr going to be like? We lose Game 7 of the finals. I wonder what he's going to be. I know what he's like because I was there. What am I going to be like? What are the players going to be like? And my favorite story in the job was when, and I will answer your question.
Sure.
We lost Game 7 of the NBA Finals to the Cavs in 16 or whatever it was.
16.
And to walk back in the locker room and see Steve accepting blame, right? Not deflecting, accepting, which I think is what a leader should do. And then to sit across like you and I are right now, basically alone, even though this is going to be public, and here are players down to a man not blame anybody, and just Steph saying, "Hey, I got to play better," and Draymond saying, "I will never let this feeling happen again. I hate this feeling." But nobody. That was the year Draymond got suspended. Not one guy, and I'm not saying this for the sake of this podcast, blamed him and said, well, if Draymond hadn't got suspended, I mean, I wrote a story about that the following year. And
the only guy who would go as far as to say, of course we were upset about it, was Livingston, who said, yeah, of course we're upset. I mean, we needed him. He's a good player.
Yeah.
He let us down a little bit, but like, I've always said even that I was astonished that would have broken a lot of teams.
Yeah.
I think there would have been lasting fractures that would never have healed.
Yeah, and so to what you asked initially, it's okay. And you can take that specific instance or another one. We were going to face adversity. There's so much scrutiny on our team. Something was going to happen, whether it was Draymond or Kevin or somebody. There are moments, and I love using I probably overdo this analogy with a band. Sometimes the guitarist is going to yell at the lead singer. Sometimes the lead singer is going to yell at the drummer. Probably doesn't happen on stage, which it did for us, but it did. So now what do? Well, what have those guys gone through together? And they're probably two of the closest guys on the team. They've won 2 championships together. In situations like that, you have to fall back, like you do in any relationship. What's the equity you have in that relationship? How much can you withstand that? Because if you don't have that, that's where you get in trouble. But those two guys actually really have a real relationship. So they've talked and they've repaired that and moved on. But if you don't have that ability, you can lose a season like that. And so for me, you initially observe right after the game. You don't jump in there and fix everything.
Right.
It's like anything. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes apologies. It takes all those things.
No, you among the many things you are known to be good at, people skills obviously is one of them. Steve too. So you're the GM of this team, or the president of basketball operations. Excuse me. So I'm very
fine.
sorry. I'm very sorry.
Yeah. I work for the
You're
team.
the grand poobah.
Yeah.
I think that's
employee.
I think that should become a title.
Yeah.
There are a series of meetings you could have. You could say, "Hey, me and Steve are going to meet with Kevin and Draymond." Now, separate from this, you have to decide what to do about Draymond and discipline and all that. You could say, let's meet with, I want to meet with Kevin by myself. I want to meet with Draymond by myself. I want to meet with the two of them, just us three. I want to meet with Steph and talk about how we should go forward. I want to meet with Clay and talk about Rocco. I don't know. What's the first meeting about this that you have?
Steve. And it doesn't have to be in any particular order. It's just some of this stuff's organic, but it's just, cause again, I wasn't witness. So before you, if you're somewhat intelligent, before you jump in any discussion, you want to get all the information from somebody that saw it, that you trust and have a relationship with and know. So it was first Steve, and some of it he didn't see also. So it's about what happened. That's the beginning of any understanding something. Why did it happen? What should we do? And that's the beauty and the good fortune I have of working with a guy like Steve. And the thing I like the most about Steve is it's never about Steve. So when you talk to somebody and you know that their motivations and their agenda are about our team and our organization, it's a pretty healthy conversation because it's not him trying to say, well, wasn't my fault. I mean, I didn't know, and he's not defensive like that. It was more of, okay, here we are. But again, this is a guy that had been on a team with Michael Jordan, who was probably one of the most driven, competitive human beings, had taken a punch from this is a guy that sits there, and Steve, maybe more than anybody, was equipped to say, okay, I played on a team that was under a microscope. I played on a team that was supposed to win. I played on a team where every game we played in the opposing arena was their biggest game. So what better human being to steer that ship, to process what does it mean, what does it not mean? That's why I always fall back on him, because he's very smart, he's very humble, and he's got great perspective and experience in these areas. So we talked, and just you have all those things, like you said, all those conversations.
Yeah. So do you meet with Kevin one-on-one and just say, hey, how are you feeling?
I think one of the things that I try and do is these things happen like when you make yourself available. I didn't say my office tomorrow,
right.
9 a.m., which would have been one way to go. I think we waited a little bit to have that conversation, but yeah, talk to Kevin, talk to all those things. And sometimes it's not close the door, it's my office. It might be at practice. Yeah. It might be talking to somebody outside of our organization that says that you trust, or somebody within it at a different level, and say, what do you think? It's serious. I'm not trying to demean it. It's not that indifferent than at your family reunion, the uncle yelling at the other guy, and you going, well, hang on, we're going to meet together for Christmas again. We got to make sure those people, but you don't really do it at the picnic.
The only difference is that the uncle can't go join another family.
Right,
can't go
true.
sign with another family.
Yeah. But that uncle could say, I'm not coming to the next reunion.
That's true.
I'm out of this family. I mean, you and I'm not, again, I know you have other questions, but
no, I think this is interesting.
But it's life, because and this is the saddest thing, and it's probably more sad, I suppose. Family members, you run into people. I haven't talked to my brother, and this isn't me. I'm an example. I haven't talked to my brother in 8 years. What happened?
All the time.
We got in a fight at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
It's like, what? So when you talk about repairing, there was people around that situation. How do you repair that? And then you see situations where you go, oh my gosh, did you see what those two yelling at each other again? And now they're great friends. And so you see all kinds of it. But I think it requires effort. And for me, not being within that, not being a part of that conversation, how do I help mend it? That's all.
What is the meeting like, and who is there when you tell Draymond, we have to suspend you for a game?
That was just Steve, me, and Draymond. And it's those are never but again, those are never good for anybody. That's not fun.
Right.
But again,
no one is relishing delivering the news.
And this is again, I hate Draymond. I drafted. He's been in the organization for 9. I don't know how many years. 8, 9. You have history together.
Oh, for sure.
So I've had wonderful, unbelievable moments with him. Was that one of them? No, not for any of us. But you do what you can. And I think one thing that I try and say, or Steve, nobody's infallible in any of this stuff. Me. I'm going to make a mistake. You view it as a guy made a mistake. What's the right punishment for that? I don't know. You do the best you can. So it was us three, and you do it, and you move on, and it was one game, and then you go from there.
Did he object? Did he take it okay?
Yeah, I mean, he understood. I mean, look, Draymond is a guy that runs. I think the thing I love the most about him is he wants to win so bad that he wanted to play. I mean, of course, he didn't want to. You're taking away a game from him. Nobody that's a competitive guy is going to say, "Sure, sounds good, thanks a lot." So no, he wanted to play, but again, he handled it, I think, great, and then he moved forward.
Obviously, you're concerned about the possibility of KD leaving, as you would for any star free agent leaving. Let's not go there quite yet. When the league thinks about, okay, what's going to happen in the playoffs? What's going to happen when the Warriors really gear up and start trying? What is our hope? Now, let's not take for granted you were in a Game 7 last year. So that part of that is like there was hope. Last year there was hope that you could be beaten. The hope that I hear from coaches and executives around the league is Kevin's free agency is hovering over that team, whether they like it or not. What's going to happen if someone punches them in the face in the first 3 games of a series? What's going to happen if they're suddenly down 2-1 and the world is falling apart? With that hovering over their head, with maybe players on the team wondering, like, does he have half a foot out the door, a foot out the door? Can they, like, to win a title, you need, now some years, like 2 years ago, you didn't have any adversity. Last year you did. There may be a moment where you need everyone to look at each other and say, we are coming together and rising above it now. Everyone come together now. Are you worried that the KD thing is going to make it harder for you to come together in a moment like that? I am not. I mean, I worry about everything all the time, but that specific thing, no, I think we will. In that moment, I'm betting on our character. And I understand why the league would bet on. They're not betting. They're not betting.
They're hoping.
They're hoping.
Yeah, sure. And they should. I mean, I'm hoping our competitors don't pull it together in a moment of adversity. The thing that's interesting about that is last year in Games 6 and 7, everybody thought Steve, against Houston, that we were down 10, I think, both games at half. One at home, one on the road. Everybody, and Steve would admit this, there was no Newt Rockne halftime speech that got our team back on the right track. And literally, if you're intuitive at all, you'd walk into the locker room and you'd look around and say, what am I witnessing here? What is going on? And what I saw at halftime of both those games was a connected team. And there wasn't, you know why it was? Because nobody was giving up, nobody was letting go of the rope, nobody was blaming anybody else. And that's really all I know of our adversity, and so I believe in it again and again and again, because deep down, I think our team, Kevin, all our players, do love basketball, do love to win, hate to lose, and at the end, in those tough moments, you fall back on those things. So I'm confident that if we face adversity, I'm sure we will. We face it in the regular season. We've already faced some, like you've mentioned. Yeah. Will we face it in the playoffs? That's what makes winning a championship so great, is overcoming some of that. I mean, even the years we won it, down 2-1 going to Memphis, everybody questioning Steve, him changing the lineup in that year we won it, going to Iguodala. Yeah. We lost games. Losing Game 7 at home is adversity. Last year, with I would say the only year we may not have had some was when
2 years ago.
2 years ago, right?
Year.
Yeah, I didn't. That was probably not a lot of adversity, to be honest. I'm trying to think of the regular season. I guess, was Steph hurt at all?
Steph was hurt, I think, at the beginning of that. No, yeah. I don't remember.
I don't know. But last year, yeah. And I'm sure we'll have some this year. So I understand why people might ask that question. I believe in our team, top to bottom, that we persevere in those situations.
Well, I think you told me after Game 7, you did tell me after Game 7 of that Houston series, KD approached you on the plane and said, I feel really part of the team now, or something like that, right?
And I think to bolster any relationship, you need to go through difficult things. Friendships, marriages, teams. If everything's always blissful, you don't really know who anybody is, I think. If in life all it is success, how do I know, Zach, what you're like if we're playing doubles tennis and we win every match? I need to know what you're like. We just lost at the Wimbledon in the
racket.
Set.
The racket is hitting the ground.
And yeah, again,
I'm a poor sport.
But here's the thing. And here's the thing. Let's say my serve was awful. Do you come off the game, off the court, and go, Bob, and it's just you and I in the locker room, and you go, you cost us.
Never.
But I don't think you would. Yeah. But there's people that do. But I don't know that until we have that moment where I can say, I walk out of that, we just lost Wimbledon, and you go, you know what, I missed that volley. And I go, but Zach, I lost all my serves in the final set. And you go, yeah, but if I would have made that volley, that's a good relationship, right? That's a good
it happens
way
all the time.
To lose.
It happens. You have a bad serve day.
So my point is, the most important thing I think on any team, our team, is how do you lose? Not how do you win. How do you tackle adversity? How do you persevere through it? And then when beating Houston was an unbelievable series. I mean, they played fantastic, but when you walk out of that having been pushed to the limit, you can look at each other and go, wow, what an unbelievable shared experience we now have behind us.
When he's not, this is my last Kevin question, I promise. When he's not talking to the media for 8 days, it was strange. Like, from the outside, I wasn't around you guys at all during those 8 days. It was just like, what's happening? Did anyone sit down and talk to him and be like, hey, you're just like, there's tension burbling up because you're not talking, maybe you want to talk, was there conversations happening about it?
I talked to him and just asked him. I didn't tell him. I think he's a grown man. My belief is not to tell anybody that's a man what to do or not to do, but I'm always talking to him, and I said, what are you thinking? So we had that conversation. But I think the thing that we miss, even me, I have no idea. I'm around whatever you want to call them, celebrities, these people that are on our team or in the NBA that have grown up and live in a world that I'm unaware of. I don't know what it's like to not be able to walk down the street. I don't know what it's like to have how many thousands, 100,000 people following my Twitter feed or Instagram. I have no idea what it's like to play in an NBA game and have 10 microphones asking me, and I use this example, what if you had your worst day at work and you screwed up? And at the end of the day, you're tired, you're getting on the subway, and you're whatever you're doing, you're about to go home, 10 microphones in your face. Zach, what were you thinking at 10 o'clock when you posted that story and you didn't even consider the source? and you go, you already know you screwed up.
Yeah.
And then you go, and now I got to answer the question?
Nobody likes I told you so. I tell my wife that. It's like, whenever I make a mistake, I'm like, I know, I got it.
And then you're a little bit sick, and you got other stuff going on. And then you go, I don't want to deal with this right now. So who am I to judge whether it's Kevin? I think if anybody's listening, the complexity of the lives of a superstar NBA player, you cannot understand it. You can judge it all you want, but your life and what they have to go through, and sure, there's money, but after that, there's a difficult thing to having to perform This isn't. These guys have to go out and produce every night they play, and they're expected to do that. Expected to make every shot if you're a superstar. Expected to answer every question perfectly, win every game. So I'm fully in support of a guy, whether it's Kevin or any other player in the league, that says, "I need a break, man. Like I just need a break." And who am I to judge when that should or shouldn't be? So in a situation like that, I might say, "Hey, how are you doing in your life?"
Right.
Rather than, "You need to go out and talk to the media
Diffuse
today."
the situation,
and he's like, "How can you sit here and understand anything about what I'm going through?" And to be honest, at so many levels, I can't. At so many levels of an NBA player, I cannot fathom, especially a modern player, a modern superstar. I have no idea what it's like to be one of those guys.
Now let's be careful, because the tampering police are listening. You are a president of basketball operations, but also a former agent. So you come at this from a different perspective. Just no names. What do you think of this world we're living in now, where players with multiple years left on their contracts? I mean, this is going to be the topic du jour when Adam Silver talks to Bill Simmons in a minute. Start agitating for trades. And I don't even like the word agitate because it sounds pejorative. I just start informing their teams, "Hey, you might want to start looking around because I don't want to be here anymore." And like the team's like, "Well, you got a year and a half left on your contract. You signed this contract." It makes people mad on a visceral level, but it's a very complex issue. And one basic reason why is it's going to be better for Team X that they got something for player Y than have him leave for nothing. Like, there is a benefit to the team, as uncomfortable as it is, but it just makes people viscerally angry. And you were on that side. I'm not saying you had one of those situations, but you were an agent. But now you run a team. Just as you've seen all this unfold with Kawhi, Kyrie, AD, down the line, don't name any names. Bob didn't say any names, I did. What have your thoughts been, just like, as the league is evolving? Like, what kind of league are we going to be?
It's a good question. And it's fascinating to watch things evolve. And I think the takeaway, there's a few takeaways, but the first one would be there's a reason why there's a visceral reaction, because the power of an NBA player has never been greater. And I'm not sure it's always probably been this great, but there's a recognition of it amongst the players and maybe fans and media and GMs and coaches.
It's been one of the ripple effects of shortening the contracts, which is what the owners all wanted to protect them from themselves.
But you're right in that capacity. But I would argue, let's say I signed Zach Lowe. He's one of the best 5 players in the NBA. I just signed you to a 7-year contract. You're the best player on my team. 2 years in, I notice you look a little disinterested out there. We're losing. We've lost 3 or 4 in a row. I go to you.
I definitely got out of shape.
Whatever you're doing, it's not working for you or us.
Yeah.
I go to you. I go, Zach, what's going on? And you go, I don't want to talk about it. Zach, what's going on? So then that off season, you go. I go exit interview. I go, Zach, what'd you think of the year? And you go, I don't know if this is going to work for me. And I go, what do you mean? You got 5 years left on your deal. And you go, yeah, it's just whatever. And so then we go into next season. And then finally it reaches a point where you walk into my office and you go, listen, I don't want to be here anymore. Don't I have to do something about that? Because you've basically, as the most important person to our success on the court, have told me you're not interested in being in the position you're in. Whether you have 5 years left or 1 or whatever, you probably still get moved. Right? So you're talking about length of contracts. I'm not saying it's not nothing.
It's interesting.
But in a game of chicken, doesn't the person with most leverage usually win? Usually, and a player, it's not right or wrong. It just is the most important person in our sport. In a sport where the best player can touch the ball oftentimes as many times as they want, as a coach can get a certain player 30 shots, which he should or shouldn't. It's the only thing I can come up with is Tom Brady is the middle linebacker. So he's calling every defensive set, gets to play every down. That's how important an NBA superstar is. It's Barry Bonds as a pitcher. It's Barry Bonds getting to pitch, and he gets to pitch every game, and he gets to hit every time.
Yeah.
There's no synonymous athlete, short of an individual sport. But in a team sport, no hockey player, they don't even play. A hockey player plays 25, 26 minutes.
The closest thing in American sports is the hockey goalie who gets like absurdly hot for a month, and
but doesn't score any goals.
No.
So yes, but you're right. I think, and I haven't heard the hockey one. That's interesting. So why shouldn't those people have that authority. Now, what do you do with it? How do you operate it? How do you move through it? What's the right way? I think right now what you're seeing is an awakening amongst the players as to, wow, I should and can take control of my career. Because the other thing is, players have never been judged more harshly than they are now. But they're also praised probably more than they were. They get both. Yeah. But in an era where criticism usually lasts and stays with you more than praise, you start seeing that I have to improve my situation, right or wrong. You feel that. And so it's a complicated, again, it's a good question. What's the right way? What's the wrong way? I do know this. I'm not going to defend the position that a star player has the importance that it does in our sport. So again, I don't know what you do with that, but it is a truism, I think.
You've told the story many times of Andre Iguodala's free agency and how stressful it was for you, and Joe Lacob's off in Montana with no cell phone reception, and you've got to clear space and all this, that, and the other thing. Is the story of DeMarcus Cousins' free agency literally that your phone rings and it's a number you don't have, and it's like, hey, this is Boogie. You got a mid-level. What do you think?
Wow. No, Iguodala was more painful because I just felt no hope that was going to actually. There was more moving parts. There's a ton of moving parts.
That's the one that you were sleep deprived and reconsidering life.
That was that was one that was. And GMs that are listening or do listen will relate to the effort you put in when something doesn't happen. It gets no credit, which is, I guess, running the marathon and coming in second, and nobody cares. But that's.
I think running the marathon and falling.
Yeah, maybe falling at the
yeah.
and actually nobody even saying, "Wow, he ran pretty good." They don't know. They don't care.
By the way, we'll get back to DeMarcus. The story I never get tired of reading. I will read 100 of them. Are the people who cheat at the marathon, who got in a cab and jumped in. I love those guys. I love those guys.
Think you're winning the. I think that's fascinating because even if it worked. What did you get out of that?
It's like robbing a bank, but you won the marathon instead. Anyway, you ran the anyway. I haven't gone back and read everything, but it seemed like you literally just got a phone call. And it was like, okay.
The truth was, in free agency, there's all these variables and high probability, low probability things you look at. And our thought was we have a taxpayer mid-level, which is, for people listening, it's not a lot. It's $5 million, which is a lot, but not a lot for a good NBA free agent. So we had an idea of maybe somebody will fall through the cracks, not really thinking it would be a guy like DeMarcus. That was our biggest position.
And I believe you had some other targets, too, who were off the board pretty fast.
Who were off the board or we weren't really optimistic on. So his agent, Jaron McKinnon, called me that morning pretty early, and I think he called twice. And I was looking at it thinking, and when an agent calls, you usually know who they're working with or what it's about. And so I called him back, and we've been through all these machinations of agents maybe calling and saying, could you get to 10 million somehow? Is there any way you can get to 15 if you move this guy? And so I'd been exhausting that, and I was a little bit fatigued, and so my knee-jerk response at that point was, look, if we're talking about anything more than the mid-level, we can't do it. Right. We don't want to do it. We don't see a way to do it. So so good luck and do something else. So I prepared that speech for Jaron, and this is when I knew it was real. He said, we know how much money you have. And I hit him back again. I said, no, it's not the mid-level, it's the taxpayer
right, it's the
mid-level.
Baby mid-level.
It's not the real, it's not, no, we know. And the way he said that and the rapidity that he replied was kind of made me think, wow, okay. But I still didn't have full confidence that it would get there. Because a lot of times the agents are they're smart. They cover their bases. Worst case scenario.
Right.
We got this with the Warriors.
That's why you say when you see a player decline a player option, you know that
there's something, that they can fall back on.
Yeah.
But then I thought this is Jaron just kind of landscaping the league. So we could go to DeMarcus and say, look, if in a week or two you got nothing, the Warriors are kind of there. I don't know how long they'll be there. But then he said, would you talk to DeMarcus? And I said, does he want to talk? Does he know what we have? Yeah, he knows how much money. So then DeMarcus called with Jaron on the phone, and we started talking, and I still didn't quite have a ton of belief that it was real, but it was fine. We weren't really doing anything else. And so he got on the phone, and we talked for a little bit, and I said, and I met him a couple times, and I said, what do you want? And he said, I just want to play in the right situation. I want to find the right situation for me. And I said, well, look, I will tell you this. It's a travesty you haven't played in the playoffs yet. You need to play in the playoffs. And I said, whether that's with us or anywhere, because I think your game, the physicality, needing to get close to the basket on certain possessions to score, to get to the free throw line. I said, I think your game will really translate. And I said, so anywhere you sign, and he cut me up. He said, no, I want to sign with you guys. And so then I thought, okay, I've heard it. I don't know how else I can hear this. He basically hit me right between the eyes. So the complexity of that wasn't the DeMarcus. It was first finding out, did he really want it?
Right.
The second part was, how in a short span of time do I get with Steve, try to get in touch with Steph, Kevin, Draymond, Andre, and that was the best part of the story, hearing all of their reactions. It was funny because after I talked to DeMarcus, I knew that this thing was getting set in motion here, and was going to either happen that day or probably not. So Steve was driving up from San Diego to L.A. to see his mom. I was in L.A. to see his mom. His mom lives in L.A. So I got on the phone with Steve, and I said, Steve, I only have like 1 minute. And he said, what's up? I said, I'm going to tell you a name. Then I got to hang up. And I said, think about it on your drive. It's like a 3-hour drive from San Diego to LA. And I said, so that'll give you enough time. And he said, what? I said, DeMarcus Cousins. I got to go. And that's literally what I did. And he goes, wait, what? And I said, I'll call you in 2 hours. So that's probably an interesting way to do it, because I didn't want me convincing him or trying. I said, you think about it by yourself in the car for 2 hours and come back to me with whatever it is that you've got, without me pushing you, without anybody pushing you. And I didn't know what Steve would process in those 2 hours. I didn't know what our players would process. I didn't know. For Joe, our owner, Lacob in Montana, $5 million is $20 million because of our tax bill. So he's got to believe in this too. But I know we don't have a ton of time. But going through the calls, because Steph was having a baby literally that day.
I forgot about that.
Draymond was somewhere in Greece, or he was not U.S. He was definitely not on our time zone. Clay was on a plane back from China. The best part about Clay is he's the only guy I didn't talk to, but he's the only guy I didn't need to talk to. I mean, because everybody said, well, Clay doesn't care who's on our team. He doesn't know who we have, who's on our team now, who you want to sign. But Steph was fascinating, and then Andre was great. But that's the part of the job.
Why was Steph fascinating?
Because these guys are so embracing. I mean, you get to see in that moment, like Steph was so like, yeah, man, are you kidding me? But he was having a baby that day. Like, he was at the hospital, which is cute. And so just to interact with him from that position.
I could see Andre playing a trick on you.
No, Andre was great. Andre's really smart, as you know.
That's what I'm saying. I could see him like objecting.
I called Andre and I asked him, and he started laughing. And he goes, why are you asking me that? Yeah, why are you asking me that question? Like, he almost made me feel like an idiot. Which is Andre's one of his best things that he does in life. Unfortunately, it lands back on me sometimes. But he was kind of like, it's almost like, don't ask me stupid things. I got better things to do. Yeah, if you can get him, get him. But it was, anyways, it was a pretty interesting day.
There were a bunch of funny things I wanted to ask you, but we're almost running out of time. I was going to ask you about you will not eat anything. You will not eat salmon unless it's wild salmon.
Yeah,
that's a stance you've taken.
It's a stance that I would like to have a better. I do eat farm. I mean, now they trick you. They say it's organic and we have nets in the ocean, but it's just better for you. But I'm not one of these I'm not super elitist on the salmon. Okay. I prefer that, but I would never.
The wild salmon.
If I came to your house and I wouldn't say I'm not eating this crap. I'd eat the Zach Lowe household farm raised stuff.
I'll tell you who's not cooking it.
Who?
Me.
Yeah, I'm not good at that stuff either.
Just end by this hurt me when you told me. You went to UCLA. You played on great UCLA teams. You hugged Tyus Edney after the buzzer beater. Yeah. You almost went to my alma mater. Yeah. Not almost. You considered my alma mater, Dartmouth College, who has not made the tournament ever since in the modern history of the NCAA tournament. How close are we to? Because you would have probably been a star. We might have, you would have been a star. What could have happened? What could have been for us?
I don't even. So when
we make the tournament instead of Princeton, and Princeton doesn't beat your ass in the tournament.
I was in. That was an interesting game too. That's the only game against Princeton where I felt like I was faster than the guy guarding me, and they still beat us. Not that I was going 1-on-1 or anything. No, Dartmouth. I went to visit Dartmouth, and the thing about I applied to all these schools, and I sent my that was the VHS days.
Yeah.
There was no internet. Not that I would have been on the internet for any reason at all. but this was pre-internet rankings.
What's your senior year points per game in high school? You got to be over 20 if you're going to UCLA.
It was probably high teens, but I could rebound pretty well.
Okay.
I was, I don't know what I was, but it wasn't anything. It was definitely not a modern player by any stretch. So anyways, this was the era. You're probably too young for this. Is when your dad was in the stands with those big.
I'm 41.
Okay, so
I'm old, man.
You know when you watch those old films and then the action, the dad's doing it on his big video camcorder and he forgets to go the other way and he's got the camera on the blank basket. That's the kind of
all of a sudden the flinch is the floor for 3 minutes.
Right, exactly. So we sent off a very blurry, imperfect, standard definition, edited highlight video, which. I actually would love to look back on
star wipes.
on how
Did you put in some star wipe edits and some music?
No, nothing like that. Anyways, we sent it out to a bunch of schools, and I can imagine. I don't know who the Dartmouth coach. They didn't look at this. They probably got a ton of things like this. So I didn't even get an opportunity. But the ones, so I'd send that off to various schools and said maybe I can play here, maybe I can play there.
Never visited, never a contact from the coach, nothing.
No. I didn't. No. I walked around the school and looked around, and I was too naive. I don't know. I didn't think I could play there or not. I didn't have the confidence to say I could play at Dartmouth or anything like that. And I don't even know if I got into Dartmouth. I mean, I know I applied. I don't even remember whether that was a reality or I hadn't applied then or what it was. But I remember visiting the campus, and the one school that. The best basketball school is UCLA was the only school that said, hey, because we ended up randomly knowing somebody, and they said, you want to try to walk on? Of all the schools I considered, the by far best basketball school was the place that said, well, maybe you can try out here. So that's just the life, whatever the heck it is.
We really dropped the ball on that one. All right, Bob Myers, we have a conference to attend. Thank you for making time. And we will be running into each other a lot over the next few months as we get to the stretch run. But good luck with everything. All right. And, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the Lowe Post.
There you go.